Deep within the Watchung Reservation, now known as the Feltville Historic District, there's a long, narrow road. The winding road leads you into an eerie forest, and deep inside this forest, past its branches and thistles, there lies a group of homes, frozen in time. These homes are each from the 19th century, many of them long abandoned. We have found ourselves at the deserted village, a place built from failure, with a long storied history of promises and possible haunting. Hello, I'm Anthony, and today we will be exploring not just the true history of the deserted village, but the village itself. To understand the village, one must first know its history, and that all started with Peter Wilcox, a settler from Long Island who arrived in the early 1700s. When he first arrived here, Peter made a sawmill. However, later down the line, when more people settled down and arrived here, the sawmill was sadly demolished. Fast forward to the early 1800s. A businessman by the name of David Felt needed more land and more mills for his lumber company. Eventually, Felt came across a descendant of Peter Wilcox, whilst looking for land. From there, they struck a deal, and in 2 years, Felt had built a mill. But he didn't stop there. Felt went above and beyond for this new land. He had built 2 dams for his mills, and finally a town for the workers of the mill. He would then dub the town Feltville. Inside Feltville, there was a church, a school, and other commodities. Felt would acquire the nickname King David, as he would require residents to go to the services in the church. By the middle of the 1800s, nearly 200 people lived within Feltville. However, after 15 years, Felt would sell the property, and sadly, after several unsuccessful deals to buy the town, it would become known as the Deserted Village. Years later, in the early 1880s, Feltville was purchased by one Warren Ackerman, who wanted to turn the deserted village into a summer resort called Glenside Park. However, interest dwindled as people wanted to go to the beaches of New Jersey instead, thus leaving the village deserted once again. After the desertion once again, a local civil engineer by the name of Edward J. Grassman would go on to buy a number of properties there to serve as a club. Grassman would go on to convince Roberto de la Selva to paint 2 of the structures with murals. Through these murals, he showed his fondness and love for the Southwest and Latin American culture. The murals de la Selva, as they are named, are 2 murals, the first mural being named Mexican Cottage, and the other being named Indian Cottage. Years later, the Union County Park Commission would buy the land and include it within the Watchung Reservation. They would rent the houses to families. Along with this, the deserted village was named by Preservation New Jersey one of the top 10 most endangered historic sites in New Jersey. Although many of the main structures have long since collapsed in on themselves, there is an ongoing effort to preserve the town so that visitors may see how the ones who once inhabited these homes lived there. The history of the deserted village is tragic. A town that was constantly up and down in terms of its inhabitants and the state it was in. But now, I think it's time we take a closer look at the deserted village. I just arrived on the outskirts of the deserted village over here. You can see them way down there, down the path. I'm looking to explore the whole thing today, and I'm going to take you guys with me. So I hope you enjoy this little exploration journey with me as we walk on through the deserted village. Now, some things I'm looking to do today and specifically see are, of course, all of the houses and amazing buildings I've described throughout my process of making this film for you all. And one of the first things I think we should check out is, of course, the cemetery, which if you're going down the main path, you hook a left at the beginning, and you'll find yourself somewhere near there after walking a bit of the trail. So I'll meet up with you all once I'm finally at the cemetery. After walking for about 5 to 10 minutes down the beautiful trail, I found myself at the Wilcox and Badgley's family's cemetery. Now, this cemetery was mainly made for those 2 English families who first settled here in about 1736, and most of the tombstones, if not all, are commemorative tombstones to those families. The only one that is original is the John Wilcox tombstone, which is beautifully crafted and has just such detail inside of it, and you can tell that it has withstood the I guess the passage of time, as it was found near a like a tree, and it was uprooted, and they moved it to the small cemetery here. Not a lot to say about the small cemetery here, but it is very breathtaking and is well worth the small kind of offshoot hike as you're entering the deserted village. So let's continue onward, and hopefully we pass by the church or the school or any of the other kind of buildings that have the murals in them, and we'll really get into the meat and potatoes of it all. So I'll catch you guys when I get there. I finally made it back on the main road here, and we're starting to come up on some of the houses that I've been researching for quite a while, and it's pretty breathtaking to see. Sorry if this is a little awkward for me, but this is like the first time I'm seeing this, and I've spent so much time researching and looking at all these places online. It's just really, really cool to see. The first one we're coming up on is a private residence, so I will try not to show them too much. Oh, there's a cute little bunny. Wish I could show that. Maybe you'll see it. Oh, let me turn it. But as we continue moving, we come up on, I believe, our first historic building that we're going to be seeing. This is, I believe, the church/school that we're coming up on here. I'll check the sign that is right outside the door and do a little history lesson for everybody. But it is a remarkable building. I don't know how much restoration has been done. I don't think many at all, just thanks to the Historical Society and everything being preserved as to what it was. But this building right here was the Feltville School and the church/store, actually. So it was a 3-in-1. And this building is about 2 floors, maybe 3. I remember looking and seeing 3 floors on it. But I believe this is open sometimes, and it does a lot here. As you can see, it's very large, made with a local resourced wood from the forests around here, and it is just very beautiful. So walking around here in the back, there's a couple benches to sit on and just kind of enjoy the breathtaking sights in front of you. And in the back here, we can clearly tell that it is a 3-story building. So whatever was going on here in the olden days, I suppose to say, church/store, maybe up there, and then at the very top, you can see everything else. But it is just, it's really amazing to be out here and seeing everything here. They have a few porches here that you can kind of stand on. So let me see if I can get up there without being too annoying to anyone who lives across the street there. But wow, you can really see the fine craftsmanship that went into all these buildings when they were being made, the laid brick and such. But it's amazing. I don't think anything's open right now, but I see some lights on in there. I don't want to disturb anyone. But there's a lot of cool stuff here. Like right here, there's a little bucket. Don't know what that's for, but there's a cool bucket here. And there's some wonderfully made kind of benches and stuff. It's just amazing. But as I was saying, this was the church, store, and of course the school. So kids would come here and learn to pray, and of course to buy locally sourced goods here in the deserted village. There's also a sign that says if you want to follow it, you can go to the cemetery, which we just saw. But let's continue onward. There's a couple more buildings I want to show you, and there's a small cabinet full of original kind of excavation documents by the first people who started trying to look into the history of the deserted village here. So we'll find that shortly, and I'll catch you guys when I'm over there. So after walking down the road a little bit more, I found the little free library that I was talking about before that contained some of the archaeological kind of evaluations that they did here. And you can't open it. All these are free to access to the public, and it includes lots of awesome things. This is an archaeological investigation journal for the church store. That would be building number 2 that we passed. This one is a big kind of stack of papers. This is a reconnaissance file for kind of just everything that went through. Now these have countless pages of information that I can't possibly go through all right now, but it has like seismographs, all that stuff. I think that's what it's called, a seismograph. That might be for earthquakes. But there's also another archaeological evaluation of some of the buildings here. It explains graphics of the sediment down below. It is very, very intriguing how well they preserve everything here and how it's just in a little box. It's really funny and really cool. I'll show some extra footage of that, of me flipping through once I come here again, and I'll show you everything that was once there. Well, finally found my way to some of the more, I guess, collapsed buildings. I'll come back to the ones in front of me in a bit, but I'm walking towards the ones in the back where I believe some of the paintings were stored back there, the murals. We're not allowed in these buildings since all of these are protected, but I'd love to get some close-up shots of them for you all and just to really admire them myself since I've never really seen them. We're coming up on the first building. Mind my swatting my face. There's a lot of bugs here. Yes, this is one of the first buildings. Okay, so right in this one in front of me is one of the murals. This one contains the, let me see here, I believe the Mexican cottage. Yes, it does. Okay, so in this building right here, it is yellow and red and beautiful. I don't know how restored this one is because some of these were a resort once upon a time ago. Feltville was a resort at one time. I can actually see a bit of the inside here, and it looks like they've kind of stripped everything and have put up kind of like fake, almost like walls to deter anyone from going in. It says no trespassing. I think I could at least stand up here and look around. Can't see any of the murals inside. It's just amazing to see all the hard work that goes into preserving everything that goes on here. But you could tell that these buildings are just beautiful. This one has been almost utterly destroyed, but whatever they're doing to preserve it is clearly working. Right here, we have another no trespassing sign, so I don't want to get any closer, but this building looks like it's almost completely collapsed. As you can see here. It is just almost utterly destroyed here, and there's not a lot to say about it. It's just sad the state a lot of these were left in after being neglected for so many years, you know, and being able to preserve them is definitely something that we should focus on more. Preserving our history, preserving our legacy, preserving anything. It's very important to do because it teaches us, people now, of just how we used to live, because in a couple hundred years it's going to be so confusing when people pull out iPhones or something like that of an archaeological dig and be like, what was that? But it is really such an interesting thing to see. We're going to come up on those front two houses now that you might see in the background over there, and we're going to give them a look too. So I'll be right back. Walk down the road a bit more, and here we find one of the other buildings here. It is completely fenced off, the porch, and that is for good reason. I'll walk along the side here. It is completely caved in, and it is very dangerous for me to even walk towards, I'm going to assume, so I'll keep my distance a bit. But for the sake of the viewers at home, you guys, I'll get as close as I physically can. Here we see the kind of aftermath of it plummeting down, and it is very scary, and I don't want to stand near it anymore, but it is all fenced together and fenced out for people like me who want to go inside and check it out. But it is one of the historic buildings here. This was Glenside Park, apparently, and this is somewhere in the middle of
the deserted village. And this was one of, I believe, the townhomes that housed many families. Upwards of, I believe, 5 families lived in these buildings. And it is very small, as you can see. I believe we're coming up on another, this one a bit more decrepit, a bit more soggy looking, for lack of a better word. But here we are. Another one of those townhouse buildings. Just astounding. The porch is also caved in, actually, not as bad as the other one. That one is quite literally a sinkhole. This one is basically sinking into the ground. As you can see, it's slanted downwards, which is a really interesting sight. Moss kind of growing from the ceilings just from years of wear and tear. And it is just, it's astounding just to see how a building from so long ago can stand the test of time. But if we continue onwards down the beaten path, we'll find ourselves at the Masker's Barn, and that will be our last stop, I believe, in the deserted village. So I'll talk to you guys when I arrive there. So as I was walking, I came upon 3 more small houses here, as you can see, and apparently these are Feltville's cozy cottages. These were small duplexes for families, almost dormitory-esque, all these buildings, as you can see. I'll get some close-up shots of them very soon, but each of them they stand on a brick kind of bottom, and all white paint, green shutters, the whole thing. These were for families, I believe 4 or 5. I might have been wrong about those buildings, and these were the family houses that they all stayed in, and they would just live here. And I believe next, right down that path, is the Masker's Barn. So we'll get there soon. I just made it to the Masker's Barn. It's actually another day. I didn't get here in the same day. First time I got here, there was a wedding. So if you want to have your wedding here, you could do that. Pretty amazing. Very beautiful little spot. Very quaint. And what's the word I'm looking for? Spiritual, I guess you could say. It's a really nice time out here. Beautiful weather right now. But we're at the Masker's Barn. This barn was built in the early 1880s, I believe, around 1882, and it was a carriage house up until 1916. Then after that, it was built. It was actually bought by the Masker family, and from there, I believe in 2011, it was actually repurchased again after years of it being broken and just in disarray, and it was completely reconstructed here into what we have today. It is a beautiful piece of modern history, much like the rest of the village here. And the Masker's Barn in of itself is a very beautiful piece of history here. I can't see the inside. I'm going to assume it's beautiful. I can only hope to get some pictures that I'll show you guys right now if I find any. But there's also a pergola over there, very beautiful, where you can have your wedding reception. But just everything here at the deserted village is so beautiful. There's just so much stuff and so much history, rich history, that really goes into everything here, and everything deserves to be preserved here. It's a beautiful place, enigmatic at times, the history we have here, mysterious, as you could say. But overall, I would say stuff like this needs to be seen. So come on down to the deserted village and just enjoy the view. And if you don't, take in the history. There's still a lot of other hiking trails. It's a wonderful place that everyone should visit, and overall, I'd say it's worth the hike. But I've been Anthony Giglio. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end, and from the bottom of my heart, I hope you have a very good day.